Welcome to the Unwatchables. Today we're going to talk about the movie Replicas. This is Marcus, and today I'm joined by Matt.
Hey.
Alright, so the first movie we're going to talk about is Replicas that came out in 2019, and it's a 2018 production. So Matt, what do you think about the movie Replicas that stars Keanu Reeves?
It's not a good movie. I would not recommend it. It was funny for the wrong reasons. We laughed times I don't think we were supposed to be laughing, and I don't think it was one of those like self-aware movies. Like it's not supposed to be.
It was not
laughter. It's actually a very, very serious subject matter. For those of you who don't know, at the beginning of the movie, Keanu Reeves loses his family in a car accident. So there's his wife and his 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
And he works at this facility that's working on like cloning people and then like taking essentially like your mental mind and putting it in another body.
Yeah, like a robot. That's what they call them, replicas.
Yeah, they call them replicas. But it's like you're taking all their memories and who they are, essentially. A soul, I guess, in a way, putting it into another body. So it's really like, I don't know, maybe it's such like a dark story at first, but then it just gets crazy and stupid, and there's things in it that didn't need to happen, and the acting was poor. The music was stupid.
I mean, this movie, all right, so as you mentioned, Matt, this film has 2 things happening at once. So you have Keanu Reeves is a professor, and this whole facility takes place in like Costa Rica or something like that. And he's basically working on the technology that will allow a person to transfer their consciousness from their dead body to a robot.
Yeah, an actual robot.
All right, and that's the replicas. So if you watch the movie, that is what the replicas is, or a replica is a robot with a human consciousness. Now, like what you mentioned, his family, they die in a car accident. Keanu Reeves is driving the car. His wife and his 3 kids die in this car accident, right? And then in comes the subplot of cloning. So, and this film too, like you mentioned, like they all do this serious. There's a part where Keanu Reeves is working with the guy from Silicon Valley that's in all those Verizon commercials. And the 2 of them are basically cloning Keanu Reeves' wife and only 2 of his kids because they don't have enough pods for the 3rd kid.
Can't grow the 3rd
They can't grow the 3rd kid, so they're basically growing people in his garage. And it's Keanu Reeves perpetually asking the guy from Silicon Valley to do more things. Like he asks the guy from Silicon Valley, like, can you dump my dead body's family? He's like, oh, I can't do that. He's like, I need you to do this. And he does it. And he's like, oh, I can't clone your family. I need you to do this. And this movie, like literally for the first hour, that's the whole plot. He's growing people in his garage, and his garage, it doesn't even look sophisticated. It looks like the garage at anybody's house. Like, it just looks like a normal garage with, like, books on the shelves and stuff. It's a really weird premise. It's almost like, it almost has the production value and the premise of, like, an episode of Goosebumps. Like, the TV show. Do you remember that? Like, didn't it almost seem like it was just a little higher quality than that?
Yeah, Goosebumps was better than this.
Well, it was better, but like, didn't it? Like, do you remember that episode of Goosebumps where there's the plant man? There's like a guy who's a scientist.
Yeah.
There's like a plant man clone of him. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely. I don't know why they just didn't focus the whole time on the fact that he was cloning his family and making these accelerated humans, because that's what they do. The way they clone them is they start them as babies and they grow in like 17 days.
It's something like that. It's like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, and everything, all the levels in the pod and everything has to be perfect for them to come out. And the wife is the first one coming out, and she looks perfect, and everything seems to have gone good. And then throughout the course of the movie, they keep showing her like she looks like she's having breathing issues, and she looks like she's kind of in pain. And then there's a part where the son that they brought back, like, goes to put spaghetti on his plate and just misses his plate. So it's saying, like, there's something wrong in his mind. And none of that stuff is flushed out. It never comes back in the story at all. And I thought that was the chance for them to have, honestly, I think this movie should have been like a really scary movie where they end up like turning into like freaky monsters or something.
Yeah, and I mean that is literally what I thought this movie was. I thought this movie was he clones his family, and then his family. I thought it was gonna be like Pet Sematary, where
Right,
you know in Pet Sematary where they bring the family back and then they start to act crazy and weird. That's what I thought this movie was gonna be, but instead you get a little bit of crazy, but then they pretty much are the same. They're not evil. They're not trying to kill him or anybody else. They're just basically like, we're clones and now we have to stop ourselves from getting killed by this evil corporation that Keanu Reeves works for.
Yeah, it turns into like a thriller movie at the end, like a chase kind of thriller movie.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of action movie.
It is a little bit of action.
When they're driving around.
I mean, too, they basically because again, when I went into this movie, I thought the bad guys were going to be the clones and Keanu Reeves was going to have to kill them. But really, the bad guys in this movie is his handler at that corporation. What's that actor's name? The guy that's been in everything.
John Ortiz.
Yeah, he's the guy that works for
like the bad guy.
Yeah, he's the face of that big corporation that Keanu Reeves works for, and he's the guy that, at first in the movie, he just keeps pressing Keanu Reeves for a deadline. He's like, you need to finish the technology by this deadline and this deadline.
Technology.
But then eventually he knows that the clones are made because Keanu Reeves has to use technology from that laboratory that he works at. And then the Ortiz's character was like, well, now we need the clones to kill him. And it's just weird. And, one thing, too, this film, we haven't talked about this yet, Matt, is the CG for the robots, for the replicas.
Yeah.
I have not seen such bad CG in a movie in
a long
time.
I don't know why they just didn't make a practical robot.
I mean,
have somebody walk around in it.
I mean, to put in perspective, how bad would you say that CG robot looked?
Well, it looks significantly worse than iRobot.
Yeah.
And
it's worse than
iRobot
iRobot 15 years ago.
Yeah, so
or 14 years ago, something like that.
That time people use like Sci-Fi Channel as like an expression to describe cheesy effects. I don't even know if it was good as sci-fi.
That whole movie, would you have said that movie is Sci-Fi Channel level movie?
Yeah, and no, because it's almost crappier. I don't know. I mean, the effects were so... It looked like a half-baked video game.
Yeah, and like, too, the whole movie, the whole sets, and, I'm not a person that's very technically inclined when it comes to films. Like, I don't usually care about sets or think about sets, but this whole movie took place in his house in the lab that he worked at.
Yeah.
I mean, there was hardly any scenes that took place in any location but those two places.
Yeah, low-budget movies do that a lot. They get the most amount they can out of their locations. And
yeah, but that movie wasn't even... I mean, would you consider a movie with a $30 million budget low budget?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like egregiously low, but yeah, no, it's low. I mean, it's anything under 100 million is considered a low-budget movie. But I mean, yeah, 30 million is...
That's enough to give you more than 2 spots of film, right?
I guess it depends what they're spending their money on. But
they're not spending it on CG.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw them just kept going to the house and stuff, I was like, okay. So I don't know. I don't want to fault the movie for that, but it does give it a very unprofessional feeling. Tacked on top is a terrible, convoluted story with 2 things that didn't need... Only one of them needed to happen. And everything that was the cool stuff that they alluded to didn't turn into anything. Especially by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of the movie, basically what ends up happening is that Keanu Reeves copies his consciousness onto a replica. And then this replica that he creates... Which is a robot. So there's his biological self and a robot copy of his consciousness that exists. And the robot consciousness that he created... basically frees him at the end where Ortiz's men capture Keanu Reeves and his family. And basically, the robot clone, essentially, of Keanu Reeves ends up, working with Ortiz. And they're, selling stuff at the end. They're in Dubai.
They're selling the
tech?
The tech, yeah, to essentially keep old people from never dying.
Yeah.
I think continuously transferring their consciousness, I would assume that's what that was.
I guess so, but there's literally, the last scene of the movie is this terrible looking CG robot in a suit overlooking Dubai, and then Ortiz comes up to him and says, we're going to be very wealthy men.
Yeah.
Something to a robot. I mean, it's just so... It's so... like just stupid and bad. I think as of this moment right now, this is the worst movie I've seen of 2019. The only other movie I can think of that comes close to this is Serenity with Matthew McConaughey, and this was better than this was worse than Serenity. Serenity was better.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst movie so far that I've seen. I mean, I don't even know why we watched it.
Yeah, we watched it because we thought it was going to be bad, and it was bad.
It was bad.
So I looked it up. So not only did the movie not only did it suck, but it also only made like not even $8 million worldwide. So the movie lost $20 million in its production budget, and that's not even to mention whatever they spent on advertising. I mean, they probably didn't spend a lot on advertising, but I mean, what do you think they spent on it? Maybe $5 to $10 million advertising it?
I'd be shocked if it was over $5 million. I don't think I saw anything for this movie. I think you told me about it, and I had to find a trailer on YouTube.
Fandango or something.
Yeah, or whatever. And I think that's about it. I mean, I didn't see any other ads.
Oh, this movie, definitely quintessential, no timer. There's just really nothing to get. I mean, if you were to watch it with friends that like bad movies, you might laugh. Because, I mean, there was times where you and I were laughing pretty hard when we were watching it. But, yeah, I mean, like, if you're, you know, if you seriously like movies or you don't like movies that are so bad they're good, then you're going to think this is terrible.
Yep.
All right. So, now we're going to talk about... Let's cut it. All right.
Go.
Tell me when it's ready.
It's going now.
Right, so now the movie we're going to talk about is Fantastic Beasts 2, and I believe that it's a no-timer. Matt, what do you think?
I think it's a one-timer.
All right, so let's talk about it a little bit. So, so what's the skinny on Fantastic Beasts 2? I mean, I've only seen Harry Potter 5, and I watched parts of the other ones on TV. So I never saw Fantastic Beasts 1. I never saw any of the other ones except for 5 all the way through. And that's my Harry Potter experience.
Okay. I've seen all the Harry Potter movies. I saw the first Fantastic Beasts, and of course the second one.
So you've watched all 10 now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think it's a one-timer. I mean, actually, I saw the movie twice.
Okay.
Not because I wanted to. It's just I was with people who wanted to watch it. But I actually liked it more seeing it the second time. Now, it's definitely not perfect. It's convoluted. It's very messy. And there's a lot going on that didn't need to go on. My biggest negative is the main guy, Newt Scamander. He's kind of a strange character. He doesn't really look people in the eyes a lot.
Yeah, his character... I mean, I heard something about his character having, like, Asperger's or autism. Is that confirmed, or do people just say that?
Well, the actor, I think... what is his name?
Eddie Redmayne?
Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah.
Freddie, I was going to say Freddie. Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah.
He had said after the movie came out that he always pictured Newt Scamander being on the spectrum of some sorts, autistic to some degree. I don't know if you call that confirmed or not, but that was his interpretation, which I think is why he talks low and he looks like he has a lot of social anxiety kind of thing. Problem is, you can't hear him, and it's weird when he's not looking at people's eyes. You know, there's just a lack of engagement, audience engagement, when it looks like there's people on screen aren't connecting.
See, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, there's a lot of issues that I have with the movie, but he is definitely at the forefront, and that's... I don't know. I feel like he doesn't care about what's going on in the plot, and it makes me feel like I don't care either. Because as a person that I didn't watch the first one, so I'm just looking at it. Like, the problems that I had with the movie weren't even continuity. It wasn't like, oh, I didn't know this person's name or that person's background or something like that. And I didn't even think about it. Like, I didn't dislike it because of that, or I feel like I was lost. I disliked it because it seemed like Eddie Redmayne didn't care. Like, I mean, he's kind of walking and he's mumbling, and I can't really hear him, and it just seems so scattered. And I decided to myself, I'm like, I actually don't really care to watch this person on screen that much. Like, I don't know. I mean, you know, when I watch Harry Potter 5, I mean, I didn't love Harry Potter 5, but I could at least see the appeal of Harry Potter. Like, I could see why people liked him. I could see how people could relate to him. But Eddie Redmayne, I mean, who does he relate to? I mean, who are the people that watch him and say, oh, I love to see him on screen more, or I love to see him I don't know, pursue that girl, the Brie Larson ripoff girl.
She does look a little bit like Brie Larson.
Doesn't she look like Brie Larson a little bit? Like they're cut from the same cloth?
A little bit like her sister or something.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't so much like have problem with like his motivation or his actions, but I guess it was the execution of those. Which, and then I agree with you. Like I feel like he doesn't care enough. He doesn't show enough emotion for me to want to care, which is, brings me to the point that I liked about the movie, which was Johnny Depp.
I did like Johnny.
Grimmelwald.
Grimwald.
Grimmelwald.
Yeah, he's Grimmy Walter. Right?
He's what?
Grimmy Walter.
He's Grimmy Walter.
Or whatever, yeah.
I actually thought he was really good. And the thing that I liked about him the most, I mean, I had really low expectations because Johnny's been slipping, and you can see his on-screen performance. Like Pirates 5, you can tell that his personal life is very much affecting how he's acting. Course. But in this movie, I thought he did pretty good. But the thing I liked about it the most is I kind of agreed with this character by the end of the movie. Like, I was on his side, which is even more weird. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good dynamic feeling to have that towards a villain.
Oh, of course.
And you just... I mean, the way he talked and the way he presented himself, it was more normal. I get Eddie Redmayne trying to do something new and breathe a little more edge to the character, but it just, the execution was so lackluster.
Yeah, I feel like his character representation fell flat, but I will say that is what I like the most. I like Johnny Depp's representation of the character the most. And I thought Jude Law did pretty well. Jude Law did the classic, I'm Jude Law in an authority figure role. I feel like he's done that role like 8 times. I can't think of any examples. I feel like there's been like 8 movies where he's literally been exactly what he was in this movie.
Kind of a wise guy.
Yeah.
Not a wise guy, like a wise man.
Not like an Italian wise guy.
Not like a wise guy.
Yeah. Hey. But he, I feel like I've seen this role multiple times by him, and I think he was fine. I think he did well. I think Johnny Depp did really well. And I don't know. There's so many weird things about the film, too. Like, like I mentioned for the other review, I'm not a person that necessarily pays attention to every cut of a film and every edit of a film, but this film had some weird edits. This, like, the scene where they're in the mausoleum.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really weird cut, because the last time they showed him there's Zoe Kravitz's brother, right? He's in there with, what's his name? Dan, the human guy. The guy with the mustache. I'm trying to think of his real name, but you know the guy I'm talking about, the Muggle guy, whatever. So they're in that mausoleum, and then they do a hard cut from there, and then a bunch of stuff happens, and then Eddie Redmayne goes to that mausoleum, and they have the whole confrontation thing, right? When they're talking about the kid and how the baby drowned and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, the human guy is there. He's like, oh, like, I've been here the whole time. It's like, that was a really weird cut. You know what I'm talking about? Like, didn't it seem weird, or just didn't seem chronologically correct or something?
Yeah, it just kind of felt like that whole scene, everything was just like sped up into it. Yeah. They were just kind of thrown into it, and they needed to get there so they could get to the next scene, which was the face-off with Grimmelwald.
Yeah, and that weird Coliseum of fire.
Grimmelwald. Grindelwald.
Grindelwald, okay.
It's Grindelwald.
Mm.
There's no M. No, but I agree with you. The thing is, when I saw the movie the first time, I was a little confused because of that, and then also what happens in that scene where they explain like the lineage and the baby and how the baby was switched and who was killed. That's the stuff that just like I was so lost. It was too much. Like, that was too convoluted. And I know, like Harry Potter fans, at least a lot of Harry Potter fans I talk to aren't liking it so much because of what they're doing and making.
Well, what are the Potters? What are they saying? The Potter fans.
What
is their? Because again, like I said, from a person, I'm totally fine with not understanding the plot. It'd be like the same thing if a person went to watch Endgame and they're like, "Who's Thanos? Who is Black Panther?" I get that. If you were to, if that's your first Marvel movie is Endgame, then I feel like you don't have a right to criticize it for the continuity or anything like that. But yeah, more of my problems I had with it was just like just what was on screen confused me. But yeah, but what do Potter fans say that you've talked to?
Oh, at least the ones I talked to, they weren't happy about Ezra Miller character Credence, who
was the Flash in Justice League.
Yeah, he's the Flash in Justice League. They're not really happy with him being a Dumbledore. But I know.
Is that from the book though?
No, the thing is, like, I don't think they ever. I mean, I'm not a huge Potter fan. I don't know.
And you've seen all the movies,
well.
But you don't read like the whole extended universe.
I don't think they ever talk, because the thing is, we don't know like how he's related to the Dumbledore family, whether he be because Jude Law plays Albus, right? He plays the old Dumbledore from Harry Potter. He's the young version of him.
Okay, who else is in Fantastic Beasts that's also in Harry Potter? Like, who are some of the characters that are in both besides?
Well, I mean,
Dumbledore.
Well, they show McGonagall for a second. She was a young, very young McGonagall, which I thought was almost too young. I don't think much else. I don't know if there's anybody really else in it who crosses over. And the story of Grindelwald is in the Harry Potter books. As like past what happened with like Dumbledore. So I mean, we kind of already know.
Is it almost like the Clone Wars of Star Wars?
Yeah, I guess
it's this whole arc because it's the whole Fantastic Beast arc. Is it all about Grindelwald?
Yeah, it's about Grindelwald and his relation to Dumbledore and what happens with him and Dumbledore.
That's what the whole book's about.
Well, the story. I don't think it's its own book. Okay. I don't remember. I honestly don't know. Well, and then I know like the Fantastic Beast, like Newt writes a textbook about beasts that I believe they reference in school, or they reference in the. I think they actually might reference in the movies, but it's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think it's the name of the actual textbook that exists in the Harry Potter universe. And then Grindelwald and Dumbledore. I don't know where in the book they discuss that. But yeah, I mean, it's known that they end up fighting and facing off, and they were friends before. I mean, this movie hinted at them being more than friends. I just assumed that they were lovers. But
yeah, that was one thing too that confused me about this movie is like, from Jude Law's perspective, it seemed like they were like in a relationship, him and Johnny Depp's character Grindelwald. But like, Johnny Depp, I kind of feel like when the film cut to him, I felt like, I don't know, I kind of got the vibe that he was romantically involved with his right-hand woman. So I mean, that's kind of the vibe I got. I mean, I wasn't. It was ambiguous about that. I wasn't really 100% sure. Like, if I didn't know Grendel or Dumbledore was gay, I wouldn't have actually had known that.
Yeah, we only know that because J.K. Rowling said it.
Yeah, but she didn't actually. Was that in any book?
No, but I guess when you read Harry Potter and they talk about Grindelwald and the story with Dumbledore, some people interpret it that way at that point.
Well, do you feel like the movie, do you think it alluded to it, or do you think it concretely said?
I think it was pretty clear.
To me, I thought it was pretty clear. Yeah. I thought it was...
I mean, they said he's like
80% pretty clear.
Like, if, he says that we were more than friends, and if he meant brothers, he just would have said we were brothers,
Yeah.
But he didn't, so I just assumed, so that was like, I don't know, unless Grindelwald's bisexual, maybe he's into girls and guys. I don't know. But yeah, I'd have to brush up on the text to see that. I know, but I mean, that was a big thing, making Credence a Dumbledore, and not explaining how.
Well, if he's a Dumbledore, how closely related is he to Jude Law's character? Is he his cousin or something? It's not his son, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it could be his brother. But then, so there's this other theory. I mean, it's pretty rich lore, because there's this other theory, because I know Dumbledore, his sister died at a young age, and they weren't able to. That's what they were talking about in the movie. Oh. That part you don't really get much out of it in the movie. They don't explain it enough. But I know his sister was troubled, and there's a name for it, and I'm sure Harry Potter fans will know it. Where there's like, it's like she can't control her magical ability or something, and she lashes out.
So she's like the Hulk of magic powers?
Yeah, I guess you could kind of say that. And that's what Credence is with that black stuff. That's what that black thing is. It's like this, there's a name for it. I don't remember.
So then there's a possibility that he might be Jude Law's nephew?
I don't know if it's his nephew, and then I read something about his sister. Well, I read something about his sister. It could have been his sister reincarnated, or it was just he just has the same thing as his sister. I don't know. I mean, it's just theoretical. I don't know. I mean, hopefully I explain it because I'm confused.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I guess the reason why I'm asking all these questions is because you're a person that's watched all the movies.
Yeah.
So for myself, I mean, I'm okay with the plot being convoluted, but I mean, like, one thing that I didn't like, and this is something that I feel like is pretty unexcusable, is the firefight, right? At the end, when they're in that Coliseum.
Yeah.
I thought that looked so stupid. And the way that people were dying, like, I just thought it looked so stupid. Like, when Zoe Kravitz dies, it's like, I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the way it looked, and, like, the music seemed off, and, like...
I like the music.
To me, I just felt like that scene was supposed to be so epic, and I just thought it looked really cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, the effects aren't perfect, but, you know, I guess I've been trained to accept it because that's what the Harry Potter movies look like. All the Harry Potter movies look like that.
They all look like that?
They look like, it's sort of like I guess it's a fantastical CGI, right? It's like not a super great looking version of CGI, but it's not even that it fits the world. It's just, I don't know, it's just what I was introduced to Harry Potter when I was a kid watching it. And it's always kind of looked a little cartoony. I agree with you, though. When the people died, it did look stupid. But I do think they kind of brush over death in some of the movies quick to still keep a little bit of a kid appeal, you know? Because, you know, a lot of the Harry Potter fans were young at first. You know, the people who are watching this movie, they were kids when the books came out. You know, they were kids when they were reading the books. And they were kids when the first movie came out. And they've grown with it.
Well, it's like the same thing Harry Potter fans... It's something probably very similar to Pokemon fans or Dragon Ball Z fans, and that's that, you know, the people that are the biggest fans today are the people that were big fans 15 or 20 years ago, right? Like the biggest Pokemon fans have been with Pokemon for 20 years, so
yeah,
they got into it when they were 7,
yeah,
and now they're almost 30 and they're still into it.
Yeah, and that's
the same thing with Harry Potter, right?
Exactly.
Or whatever the age they were, now it's been 20 years almost.
Yeah, and I think at the same time they don't want to steer away from a potential of any younger audiences coming in new, you know? Also, you know, I mean, it's been out for a while. So these fans that have grown up could have kids of their own who want to take them to watch the movies. And
well, it was Fantastic Beasts,
but it was a darker film.
Yeah, I mean, is that film really for kids?
I don't think so. I would not say so, but I don't think a kid could watch it. Because, I mean, honestly, by the end of the Harry Potter franchise, like...
We've got a lot
Harry Potter was pretty dark. Like, there was 7 and 8, which...
Episode 7, parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Wherever they call
Star Wars, Harry Potter, episode 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was part 1 and part 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those got dark, and that was the same director, right, for Fantastic Beasts 2, who did those two.
The last several Harry Potters and the 2 Fantastic Beasts and the next 3 Fantastic Beasts were all the same guy, David Yates or whatever. And
I think that was a pretty conscious choice to make the films with the audience as they grow up, you know? Keep your audience, because that's something that you could see franchises do sometimes, is they change the course of where they're going to either bring in new audiences or grow with their same audiences.
Which makes sense, and I mean, I'm totally fine with. I think people that are big fans like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't think they ever go too far because, you know, I mean, it still has to feel like a PG-13 Harry Potter movie, you know? It can't feel anything, it can't feel too much adult.
I mean, do you feel like as a person that would consider themselves at least a light Harry Potter fan, do you feel like, was this movie just an entry just to push a couple key plot points and that's the whole purpose of the movie? Like, what was the purpose of this movie in the Fantastic Beasts realm? Like, what did it accomplish overall storyline wise?
I feel like it was basically a massive setup
to introduce
for part 3. Yeah, because, you know, you've laid, especially with the end of the movie where they show the little Psyduck looking thing. What is that? I don't even know what animal that is. Whatever the creature is, that he stole the little blood omen thing.
That's right.
Dumbledore and Grindelwald had made, and that they
because that prevented
them from fighting.
Okay, but now they can fight now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Dumbledore, he's like, I think I can break it, but he's not sure, and he has to destroy it so they can fight. But that's what the whole thing was. It was like, you've sort of laid, the chess pieces on the board. You have Grindelwald in one corner and Dumbledore in the other, and you've laid out Credence, but it's weird because it is laying things out, but without fully explaining them. We're gonna have to get more Dumbledore explanation. And then there's the whole Nagini thing, which as a Harry Potter fan of the movies, I didn't really like. So that was Voldemort's snake in Harry Potter, who's a Horcrux, is named Nagini. So Nagini is, in this movie, a human who has this disease to where she changes into a snake, and eventually she will permanently become a snake. And at some point...
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean...
Yeah, she's the one that's dating Ezra Miller, right?
Yeah.
So that girl ends up becoming Voldemort's permanent snake?
Yeah, his snake pet, which is also a Horcrux, which means it keeps part of his soul in it. And you have to kill the Horcrux to kill the
So she eventually gets killed, right?
Yeah. Neville Longbottom chops her in half in the last Harry Potter movie, right?
So she's a bad apple at the end.
Yeah. Now, somebody was telling me that it's not confirmed that it's the same Nagini, but I'm like, it's a snake named Nagini. Who else would it be? And I'm just...
Maybe they accidentally meant Linguini.
Yeah, well, they definitely said Nagini. But that's, what's the term for an author going back on their work? Sort of retconning?
Oh, retconning, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's really, I guess retconning, but it's just like elaborating on her past story. And I don't know if that sits well with people. It didn't sit well with me. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why do we need to have this? Why can't it just be a snake lady? Another snake lady?
Oh.
Or, I just thought Nagini was a normal snake.
Well, I guess one question that I have, or that I want to ask you before we finish with this review is, so Fantastic Beasts 2 made a considerably less amount of money than Fantastic Beasts 1. Like, I looked it up. So the production budget was over $200 million, and after advertising, they probably spent over $300 million, right? Probably $350 million, something like that. And the movie made a little over $600 million worldwide. So, is there a possibility that Fantastic Beasts, the films, is there a possibility that all of them won't be released in theaters? Like, is there a possibility that if the next one, let's say, only makes $480 million, let's say, right? Do they finish the franchise in film, or do they release them on Netflix or Amazon? Because that happened to, oh my gosh, Divergent.
Yeah.
Or Divergence, whatever.
I don't think it would be financially viable for them to go out on a digital platform. Those movies cost too much to make, to put out on a digital platform for them to make their money back.
Okay.
Because usually, like Netflix will pick something up and basically pay out for the movie.
But a movie like Bird Box probably costs, $50 million to make, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I assume less than $50 million. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about Netflix budgets.
But there's no way that Netflix
way
or Amazon could afford a $200 million Fantastic Beasts movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be good for... I mean, I guess, yeah, they could bring in new subscribers from that, but, like, I don't think it'll be beneficial for either. Like, it's too much money to make that kind of a caliber of a movie, and for the studio to profit on it. The studio's going to spend $200 million making a movie. They're going to want to profit from it, when they sell it to Netflix. Are they going to profit $20 million off a Harry Potter movie? No. I mean, at that point, you might as well just put the movie out. I think that they're going to... I guess maybe depending on how the third one does, I think they might dial it back, because I think originally they talked about doing 5 movies.
Okay, because that's what's maybe slated right now.
Yeah. I thought I read something about them coming, like, maybe changing that, but...
Well, because the first movie made over $800 million worldwide, which is fine. But, in the second one, if they spent, by the time they made the movie, by the time they marketed the movie, if we're talking almost $400 million, all that put together, then it's not enough for the movie to only make $200 million. Like, they're going to I remember Justice League was about the same, right? And they said, even though it made $600 million, that it was a loss, or that it almost broke even. So these studios don't want to break even on movies like this. Like they're gonna. I mean, like if the next one, if it did make less than $500 million, yeah. I mean, is it safe to say that that might be the end of Fantastic Beasts? Or are they gonna rebrand? I mean, what would they do in that situation? Because at least even with Star Wars, when they had Han Solo, or when the Solo movie came out, yeah, that underperformed. But at least with Star Wars, you always have the main entry numbers, right? So even though Solo did poorly, Episode 9, even if everybody hates it, even if it got a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes and fans hated it, there's no way Episode 9 doesn't make at least $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, if Fantastic Beasts 3 continues to trend, I mean, is that the end of Fantastic Beasts, maybe?
It could be. Maybe they'll just halt it. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because the first one didn't make a lot of money, but I thought the first one was pretty boring. I think that's why the second one didn't make it as much. I don't think people like the first one.
And I think they like the second one even less.
Yeah, and I think so. You have those two things going against you, and this was the first time back to the Harry Potter movie franchise, which I think is what was going for the first one.
Yeah.
When it opened. And I don't know. I mean, they're definitely going to make a third one. So
well, there's no doubt they're going to at least, they're going to release a third one for sure.
I mean, if the third one ends up being good, I guess, maybe. I guess the third one's probably the most dependent. I hope it's weird because, like, I feel like this is going to start becoming a trend in the movie industry where studios just stop making their franchises and stop finishing their stories. Like, if it doesn't make it, like, look what happened, like, with Justice League. Like, that whole thing is a massive mess. They're just recasting, but like,
they basically
Wonder Woman
still rebooted.
Yeah, but it's like some movies still exist in the universe and some movies don't. And it's like, I'm sorry, I guess there's no rules about writing your franchise. You can just do whatever you want. So I don't know, maybe Fantastic Beasts, something like that will happen. Who knows?
I mean, I could easily foresee that.
Same studio.
Yeah, it is. It's also Warner Brothers. I mean, I could easily foresee a scenario in which Warner Brothers decides to release a new Harry Potter. They just, I mean, I don't know how the storyline would go, but they say we're releasing Harry Potter 9, I guess, and just forget about Fantastic Beasts.
I mean, I whatever.
Are they reboot
whatever
Harry Potter?
Yeah, I mean, whatever Rowling's okay doing,
Yeah.
She's pretty involved.
I think she's just okay with something that makes her money. So if they reboot, could you imagine rebooting Harry Potter?
Well, that's what. Yeah, it probably will happen. That's what Daniel Radcliffe was talking about. The guy who plays Harry Potter.
Yeah,
he's like, I want to play Dumbledore when it gets rebooted.
That's gonna be so nuts when Warner Brothers remakes like Matrix and Harry Potter around the same time.
Yeah, there's just honestly, I don't want to see any more reboots until I die. That doesn't even make sense. I just don't want to see him in my life.
You don't want to see him anymore. All right, so the verdict for Fantastic Beasts, I say it's a no-timer. The only caveat I would have is that if you're a big Harry Potter fan, then I guess see it. But if you're a person that loosely followed the Harry Potter movies and you kind of like Fantastic Beasts 1, I feel like, I guess see it in that scenario. But if it's something like you watched Harry Potter 5 and 3 and 6 years ago, and you're sitting down at your house and you're just scrolling on Netflix or Amazon, wherever, Hulu, and you see Fantastic Beasts 2, I would say avoid it if you haven't been keeping up.
Yeah, I would say it's a one-timer. If you're a Johnny Depp fan, go watch it.
Yeah.
If you're a Harry Potter fan, go watch it. And if you're just a normal moviegoer who doesn't really care either way, I would say it's worth one watch just for a fantastical sort of movie,
I mean, it's certainly not terrible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not Replicas.
No, it's not Replicas is worse than this. But this isn't I wouldn't classify this as a good movie by any stretch.
I'd call it decent. I don't know. I guess good, okay, good.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Alright.
Wait.
Alright. So now let's talk about the movie Moana. The Disney movie, the Disney princess with The Rock. This might not sound that popular, but I kind of think it was a one-timer. I kind of thought it was, by Disney princess movie standards, I thought it was kind of boring. I just didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I forgot most of the movie.
Get out. Get out of here.
That's another movie.
That's true. No, I didn't think it was amazing. But I liked it. It grew on me. Actually, when I walked out of the movie, I felt the same way. I was like, that's kind of stupid.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like I didn't like hate it. And again, I'm comparing it to the Disney animated films, right? I'm not comparing this to a movie that, let's say, that I would necessarily seek out and watch, but I watched Moana with my family, and I just kind of thought, like, I watched Tangled when I watched that in theaters when that came out, however many years ago it was, and I kind of liked Tangled. Like, I mean, it's just like the story of the young girl having to leave her present situation and her life getting better. Like, I just feel like Tangled, I laughed, and I liked the way that it looked, and I liked the dynamic between her and the guy and the horse. Like, I thought it was funny and heartfelt. But this movie, I don't know, I didn't really care that much for Moana, and I also didn't really care that much for The Rock's character, Maui. Like, I don't really care for The Rock that much as an actor anyways. Like, I think he's he's probably the most overrated actor in Hollywood today, I think. So, I don't know, you put that all together, and I don't know, it felt like a poor man's Little Mermaid a little bit to me.
I think visually, that's the thing I like about the movie the most.
It did look nice. It looked nice, yeah.
The setting was really cool. I actually liked the story, but you're right. I didn't actually like Maui that much. He was kind of annoying. I really didn't like his song.
No, and The Rock sang it, and I don't think he's much of a singer.
Yeah, he didn't. I hate it when Disney movies, like, they have any movie that has singing where they cast people who can't sing. I don't really like that much at all. I like there's songs in Moana I do like. I did not like the crab song or the crab at all.
Oh, that whole crab sub thing was weird, because that was the guy from oh my gosh, what was that show called? He was the bad guy in Men in Black 3. What was that show called? Flight of the Conchords.
Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah, the guy that was the crab or whatever that sea monster was, right? That's what he was from.
Yeah, and so that's why that's why the movie's just, like, amazing to me. There's those aspects of it. Yeah, it wasn't funny as, like, Tangled. I like the chicken a lot. I like the little tribal guys that they battle.
They were cute. Like,
yeah, anime movies always have something like that. And I really like how the ocean was treated as a character itself, and I like the message and the story about this girl having this destiny, and it keep pushing her and going towards the direction that there's something that she needed to do and fulfill. I liked all that, and I did like Moana. She was a little bit different. She wasn't your typical looking, like, Disney princess, if you even call her a princess.
Yeah.
It's like set in Hawaii and everything.
Well, I think she is a princess. The dad's a chief.
Oh, right, yeah. So, I mean, we haven't seen, like, a movie like that where, like, she's set in Hawaii or anything. I thought that was all really cool. It just, it wasn't phenomenal. But I wouldn't call it lackluster. And I would say that it's worth watching again, just for the visuals and some of the songs. And, sometimes Disney movies just have a charm and a magic to them, and I think that Moana had enough of it to watch it.
It had like enough to be called a Disney princess movie, but it's certainly, I mean, to me, it almost felt like the Princess and the Frog of these animated films. Like the Princess and the Frog, remember that movie that came out like 10 years ago? I thought that movie was, like, okay, but it didn't hold a candle to, Beauty and the Beast and
Lion King
and all that stuff. I feel like this movie, to me, doesn't really hold a candle to Wreck-It Ralph 1 and Tangled and Frozen. Like, I feel like those movies had, I don't know, it's like a lot more heart and charm. And I think maybe one thing that Moana struggled from a little bit was, I know people are going to say, well, did it need to have this happen? But, I think Moana struggled from the fact that there wasn't a love interest. Like, typically, I think a lot of people don't understand this about films, is that the reason why there's a love interest in films, it's not just to pad the storyline. It's not just to make the movie longer. I think it's because it makes you become more invested in the character. Like, it's like, that's the reason why all these superhero films have girlfriends, or, that's the reason why they put that in there, is because you get to see a love blossom, right? I mean, I might be wrong, but I just feel like I think audiences like to see that. And Moana, you didn't really get that, really. There wasn't really that, kind of a, her falling in love kind of a thing. And I just kind of feel like that made the movie just kind of feel a little bit like, okay, she had like a crazy week. But, I mean, this Moana's character, that's another thing too I feel like with her, is that she doesn't really, like, evolve that much as a character. Like, I feel like she goes on this adventure, but, like, I don't know. I don't feel like a lot's changed with her. And at least with other films, what they do is that even if a character is the same at the beginning of the plot and at the end of the plot, at least if you add on a love interest, it kind of creates a facade of change happen. It's like, oh, look, they found their true love, right? But in this, I don't know. It just kind of felt like she had this adventure. She showed her people that you can sail off this godforsaken island. And, that's about it.
Well, yeah, but it was the whole restoring the ocean heart and all of that. And
yeah, but I mean, for her as a character, though, did anything really...
I think the only thing that it doesn't get fleshed out enough, but her dad, right? Her dad was the opposition on her leaving and always going to the ocean.
The dad didn't want anybody to leave the island, right?
Yeah, so it was sort of breathing life back into what the island used to be, and they used to be...
Yeah, they were seafaring people.
Yeah. Whatever. They had a name for them. And I think that was the change, and that was the change that she inspired in the people. And I think her, in terms of her character changing, I mean, she was pretty much like... She was thinking the same way at the beginning of the movie as she was at the end.
Yeah.
But there was a change in the fact that now she... I think maybe had more confidence in the fact of she was right to follow her destiny and her own sort of her heart, whatever she was feeling and that kind of thing. Did it really seem that way on screen? No, it didn't. You kind of have to like look at it that way, to sort of say it. But plot-wise, I think there's a big change. Yeah, you can see that they're back on the sea at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which was a direct effect of her.
Oh, it was. I mean, that's why... Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, you compare this other... like, this movie in a vacuum, if you had to ask me, what do I like more? This movie or The Grey with Liam Neeson? I like The Grey more, but that movie is more made for me. The movie where he's getting hunted by a wolf. I mean, that movie is more for me than this movie, but I'm comparing this movie to other Disney movies, and I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, kind of a strange movie to compare to.
Well, what Disney princess movie do you feel like you like Moana more than? Like, do you like Moana more than, like, Mulan?
I like it more than Brave, but
Brave is the worst of the worst. That movie's That movie is the epitome of unwatchable.
Brave was a little boring.
I couldn't even watch it. It was so bad.
I mean, I think it could be another episode. I mean, I like Brave because it was a story about a daughter and a mother, and...
Well, I didn't hate it because of the daughter and the mother. I just...
Oh, it was like a different story, but yeah, no, it was slow. But that's... Technically, it's a Pixar movie. What movie do I like more than Moana, or what'd you say?
Well, what movie do you like less than Moana?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not many.
That's what I mean. So that's why I feel like
what? I think I might like Moana better than Frozen.
Really?
I mean, Frozen's a great movie, and I like that. The main storyline was two sisters, because we haven't really seen that before. Like that, the movie was about them, right?
Yeah.
Although it had a love interest, which was good.
I like love interests.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's a human emotion, and people want to. Movies should elicit emotional responses.
I agree,
but I think it's more of like a cultural society thing that turned me away from the movie. It was just too much of it.
See, I think
too many people singing the songs, too many people loving the movie so much, and
I think that's the thing about Frozen that I think turned off like me too, is that so many people were so into it that when something becomes so popular and, we see girls that are, 24 years old and they're flaunting over an Olaf stuffed animal. Like, oh my gosh, I got an Olaf stuffed animal. It's like, you're 24 years old. Like, come on. Like, you're making this movie seem like crap in my mind, even though, like, it's not that bad. But like you said, the cultural reaction to it really turned me off.
Yeah, and I know you can't hold that against the movie.
And you can't. No, I mean, it's not fair. But on the same token, like, yeah, I mean, I get that, but I mean, I just feel like from a film standpoint, like, which last Disney movie do you feel like that came out? Would you actually say Moana is better than, even if you included Pixar? Like,
even if I include Pixar, it's better than Cars 2, Cars 3.
Well, what about more of the fantasy setting Disney movies?
So, with including Pixar, I mean, yeah, so...
I mean, was
Cars
it worse?
2, Cars 3...
Was it worse than Hercules?
No.
Or Pocahontas?
No.
Mulan?
I mean, it's kind of more exciting than Pocahontas. Pocahontas is a little slow. but I like Pocahontas better. Fantasy settings. I like Moana because it feels like an underdog Disney movie.
It does kind of feel like, well, even too, like, you know, box office wise. So the movie costs $175 million to make, and it made a little over $600 million.
Yeah.
So it's from a financial standpoint, it's a very mid-tier Disney film for their standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like,
like,
you know what it reminded me the most of watching Moana? It reminded me of Wind Waker, Zelda Wind Waker. That was one thing I liked about it.
Because of the ocean?
Yeah, the way that the ocean felt in the way of, you know, like when she meets Maui, the Rock's character, right? It kind of reminded me a little bit of when Link meets the Red Horse.
It's tapping into some kind of nostalgia effect.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. Like, because, you know, there's parts of the film where you're seeing a CG character basically by themselves on this vast ocean.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, fantasy setting. So I like that because it reminded me of Wind Waker, but I don't know. If it didn't remind me of Wind Waker, I think I would have liked it even less. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like this movie, it just kind of felt like it was crapped out. Like, I feel like they could have spent a little, like, I feel like the plot in and of itself isn't bad. And Moana as a character, she's not bad, but I feel like they could have fleshed out some more stuff. Like, there could have been some things they could have done to have just, I don't know, this made the movie better.
Yeah, I mean, it just feel a little shallow, you know?
Yeah.
The movie could feel a little more substantial and a little bit more deeper and just have a little more heart. You know, Disney movies are really good at picking at your heart and hitting your heart. And
exactly.
There were key, I guess you can call them motifs, but like things that Disney movies do to make you cry. You know,
Yeah.
Up obviously started out that way. Usually there's death in Disney movies at the beginning. You didn't have any of that stuff, you know? It was just about her going off on this sort of
adventure.
Yeah.
But self-actualization adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it felt just, a little, for lack of a better term, shallow because of the ocean.
Water.
Get it? Classic. But for fantasy movies, I can't think of any movie that I like, Disney fantasy that I like less than Moana, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like now, you know, we're a couple years removed away from the movie. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, if you got turned on, I don't think a person watching would turn it off, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so many other better, you know, Disney princess movies, fantasy movies, whatever you want to say it, that are just better. I don't know. I just feel like, Moana, I would definitely say it's a one-timer. I mean, I honestly, before doing research for this review, I didn't even remember any of the songs from the movie. I couldn't even name one song. I forgot I guess the most famous one is The Rock's You're Welcome song. Like, I forgot that song even existed. I didn't even remember it. Like, I could not honestly...
Well, How Far I'll Go, I think, is the big one that came off the album.
Is that the big one?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that one.
How Far I'll Go. That one?
I don't even remember.
When she's on the ocean? That was the song.
I don't remember.
That was the Let It Go of Moana.
You see, it wasn't that big of a Let It Go. It went right out of my memory.
There was no Frozen for that, but yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I like that song. There's a few songs on the soundtrack I think are actually really good.
So would you call it a two-timer then?
Yes.
Or a multi-timer?
I guess I call it a multi-timer. The thing is, like we said before, it has enough of that Disney charm.
It has enough to get it through.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, Disney is fantastic at doing that, and they've built such a strong brand.
Oh, of course.
That they always, for the most part, succeed to some degree with their movies of having that charm, and that's enough to fulfill a movie watching experience.
Yeah. I mean, is it too much of a hot take to say that Moana felt almost more like a DreamWorks movie than a Disney movie? Is that too hot take?
Yeah, it's definitely a Disney movie.
Because it kind of felt a little bit DreamWorks. Because, you know, DreamWorks movies have no feel to them, right?
Yeah, they're just
animated films. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're excellent, right?
Yeah.
But there's no feel to them. Like Megamind and Shrek don't have the same feel at all, right?
How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah,
very different.
Yeah, exactly. How to Train Your Dragon. A lot of people really love the first one. And, you know, but it doesn't feel the same as Kung Fu Panda. They just feel like here's another movie, right?
Yeah, I think that's just part of Disney's success is having that overarching brand. Yeah, that just it all has that charm.
Yeah.
Same like Nintendo. Like Nintendo games.
Nintendo has a charm.
There's a charm to it.
But like PlayStation and Xbox, it's here's just another big game. Right? Like Red Dead Redemption and God of War don't have the same feel to them.
Yeah, you don't think PlayStation when you think Red Dead Redemption. You just think, oh, this awesome, Western game that's Rockstar. I guess you think Rockstar.
Yeah, you could think Rockstar.
Rockstar, but you don't think PlayStation. Now, Link and Mario and
it feels Nintendo.
So, yeah, I don't know, but it's a multi-timer for me. It's above a one-timer.
All right, so I guess that's it for that review. And now, so for today's episode of the Unwatchables, we're going to talk about Moana that came out in 2016 and The Meg starring Jason Statham that came out in 2018.